Hello, I'm Mike Biselli, and this is episode 25 of Passionate Pioneers. In this episode, we're taking some time to thank you, our passionate and dedicated listening community, for helping us reach episode 25. This is a huge accomplishment for any podcast, and we achieved it together. So we're taking the time with this episode to share our appreciation for all of you, to highlight some stories of the feedback we have received over the past 24 episodes, and to discuss some upcoming and exciting developments for our podcast community. Without further ado, welcome to episode 25 of Passionate Pioneers. Welcome to Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli, where we highlight and speak with the innovators, the game changers, and the pioneers who are deeply passionate and relentless in solving the problems our world is facing today. This is your opportunity to connect with and learn from these leaders and to support them on their mission. Perhaps they will soon be hearing your story as well. This is Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli. I look forward to having you on this journey with us. Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 25 of the podcast. Yes, 25. Wow. What a huge milestone for us. And when I say us, I'm talking about you, our listening audience and the global community that all of you are building by rallying around this podcast and the pioneers that are being featured and the stories being told. It's because of you that our podcast is beginning to go viral with thousands and thousands of downloads, and we're only on episode 25. With that, I wanted to take a moment to celebrate us and to share some inspiring stories, as well as a few updates and developments that are coming to the podcast and whatever else may come to mind. This is going to be a little unscripted today, and I just wanted to share some thoughts and status updates of where we are with this podcast. But of course, again, thank you. Thank you for making this podcast what it is. I can't wait to share a few stories about the comments and the questions and ideas that have been coming in from around the world. But before we get into all of that fun stuff, a bit of housekeeping. While listening to any of our episodes, please make sure to visit the episode notes to share feedback and ideas for any of our guests on previous and upcoming episodes via our guest feedback form link, and to nominate other passionate pioneers for a future episode via our guest nomination form link. And lastly, please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast so you will automatically receive episode updates in your podcast player. Simply search Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli on iTunes or Spotify, or click the link in the bottom of the episode notes. All right, I'm excited to dive in today. It has been a whirlwind over the past several months of not only getting this podcast up and running, which was way more work than I ever thought it was going to be, incredible lessons learned of what not to do and to fail and fail fast in some of the areas of this podcast, but most importantly, the feedback that I've been receiving after each episode goes live every week. Everything from hearing how parents are better communicating with their children because of Lisa Sabi's episode, or how community members are discussing mental well-being with friends and family for the first time because of Dr. Benjamin Miller's call to action on how we need to start driving this into our communities to heal our country. Or how Charu was introduced to several investors because of her episode and discussing her needs for investment for her incredible fast-growing startup that is building artificial intelligence to detect skin cancer. Or how a seasoned executive was inspired to finally begin tackling their addiction because of Matt Seafeld's episode. Or the simple note of thanks from a listener that mentioned they are now finally remembering the power of empathy and to be mindful of this with their own spouse due to Nick and Andrew's episode and the Pink Socks movement that they have created. As you can imagine, receiving these messages is incredibly moving and inspiring. In fact, there are so many to share, but there was one recent example that has proven to me that what we are all building is very special, and that the community that is coming together around the world is really, really becoming one powerful force of good. It was a couple weeks ago, I put a call to action out in the community via a newsletter and a couple social media posts for our community to submit female pioneers to be future guests on our podcast. In 4 business days, we received 103 submissions from around the world. 103 submissions in 4 business days. And what's the coolest about all of this is that a large amount of these submissions were from men who are deeply passionate and dedicated to these female leaders and the impact that these women are having on our communities around the world. How cool is that? These are the things that I'm experiencing and I get to see because of the work of this podcast and what it means to all of you. I am so incredibly touched by hearing these stories, and I know we're going to continue to get more of them as this grows and as we continue to build this community together. So speaking of building community and taking it to the next level, I believe we're just getting going. Obviously, episode 25, a lot has been accomplished. A lot of stories have been told, but there's so much more that I know that we're going to build and build together. And the reason is I've been receiving feedback from many of you on how we can take it to the next level, how we can continue to expand the reach of the voice of the audience, as well as all of the pioneers being featured on this podcast. I'm responding to what I'm hearing from all of you, and I'm responding as quickly as I can. And one big thing that I keep hearing over and over again is, Mike, how can we even connect more deeply with each other and the pioneers being featured on this podcast? How can we continue to build that community to rally around one another? Because we do have listening community from all over the world. How can we achieve that? Well, we've been hard at work and thinking through exactly how to do that. And we didn't want to just relegate ourselves to maybe one social network like a Facebook or a LinkedIn. And so we really dove deep, did our research, and in the coming weeks, I'm excited to let you know that we're turning on a private global social network for all of us. And it's via the Mighty Networks platform. I have been studying the CEO's work around this platform, where she intends to take it, why it's so important now more than ever in regards to the dynamic of social networks in the marketplace, and why I believe that this will be a wonderful solution for all of us to continue to grow this community that is rallying around the podcast around the world. So some things to expect with this Mighty Networks platform that will be hosting the Passionate Pioneers podcast. There will be a mobile app experience as well as a desktop experience. And there will be ability for you to build your own profile. You'll be able to share a picture of yourself and what you're interested in, what you're passionate about, what your expertise is in the industry. You'll also be able to create and subscribe to sub-communities within the larger Passionate Pioneers community on the Mighty Networks platform. For instance, think of a tech and startup subcommunity, a mental health subcommunity, hospital administrators and operators subcommunity, upcoming leaders subcommunity, students of the game, investor enablers, and other subgroups that I can't even think of yet. There are going to be these tools and abilities for all of you to build the community and subcommunities within this Mighty Networks platform as you see fit. And of course, we are going to have some community managers in there, as well as community ambassadors to continue to drive engagement and collaboration on the platform as we continue to publish more and more podcasts. Of course, there will be opportunities for you to engage with all of our guests. The guests will be brought onto the platform for engagement to answer Q&A. We can even build sub-communities around each episode. Really, the opportunities with this Mighty Network platform are endless, and it's only getting better over time. I've been very impressed with this platform. So one of my asks to you is take a look at the Mighty Networks platform, poke around a bit, give us some suggestions or ideas of how we can best leverage this platform. What are some of the other features that we should be turning on and highlighting and building into this platform for the use by our community members? I think also there will be opportunity that we'll be able to fire up live community broadcasts on the platform. How cool is that? And that we'll be able to engage in real time with Q&A and conversations around topics or guests or ideas, events. There's so many ways that we're going to be able to leverage this platform. And I can't wait for us to turn it on. Again, we've been hard at work. We're working quite feverishly to get it live, but no, it is coming and it is coming soon. And of course, you will certainly be hearing about it once we do flip the switch. And so with this, we're starting to approach the marketplace for a few select community benefactor sponsors that can help grow this movement that we're all building. These sponsors are going to be able to allow us to expand our operating team and to expand the number of episodes published each week and our overall marketing and community building efforts. Of course, I can't do this on my own and are going to need those team members to help with this movement. I have so many other future initiatives to further grow this movement, but I'm going to need some help to do it. And so if you or your company or your colleagues are interested in discussing what a community benefactor sponsor is for this podcast, reach out to me by our guest feedback form link, which is in the bottom of our episode notes. We'd love to discuss what this might look like and how you or your company or your colleagues can get involved to help us grow this movement and what you will receive in return for helping us grow. And so one last item that I do want to share about is that we'll continue to grow this podcast and community by way of conferences and symposiums, industry gatherings, and company events. As you can imagine, there's always phenomenal leaders amassed at big events or conferences or symposiums or otherwise. And what a great opportunity to capture the ideas that these leaders have to then share out more broadly beyond that specific event. So if that's of interest to you, your colleagues, or your company, also reach out to us. We look forward to engaging and discussing what this might mean for your conference as well. Another idea is we can have a panel and a discussion and have a moderated environment and have that recorded and turn that into a podcast as well. There's so much in store for this podcast as I feel we're just getting going together. I'm reminded weekly of all the amazing leaders out there across the globe who are relentless in reimagining the health of their communities and beyond. And I'm also continually reminded that our work with this podcast is worthwhile and it is impactful with the humbling private notes and comments that I receive daily and weekly. I am more dedicated now than ever to this podcast and the community all of us are building. And I look forward to learning more from all of you as to how we can improve the podcast and this community. But for now, thank you. I am so inspired. I cannot wait to see where we are on episode 50 with Passionate Pioneers. But for now, keep climbing, be relentless in your daily efforts in making our world a better place for each other. I know there's a lot of good happening around the world, and I am now dedicated more than ever to have those stories told and have other leaders rallying around those stories and to continue to drive better health for our communities across the world. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli. We'd love to hear your feedback about the podcast so we can continue to improve this community and to further support the pioneers being featured. Lastly, please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast and invite your friends and colleagues to join us. This is Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli. I look forward to having you back with us during our next episode.